Say hello to the all-new Triumph Trident. This is Hinckley's answer to the budget middleweight roadster sector, where Triumph reckons bikes like Yamaha's MT-07, Kawasaki's Z650 and Honda's CB650R are all direct rivals. And here's the best bit, the price. It's just £7,149. You're probably looking at the Trident like I was initially, assuming it's just a subdued street triple in funky clothes. Well, you're not completely wrong, and this isn't a bad thing considering the base, but the two models differ substantially. Let's get the Hollywood figures out the way first. The Trident churns out a claimed 80 horsepower and 64 Nm of torque from a 660cc triple that features 67 new components over the street triples motor. Triumph claim the Trident makes 90% of its torque from 3,600 RPM to 9,750 RPM. Beefy. The frame is an all-new affair using a tubular steel construction over the street triple's twin spar, and its geometry is very different. More rake, more trail, and a tangibly shorter wheelbase should offer a less serious outlook on life. And the Trident's wet weight is 189 kilograms, which sits comfortably in the middle of the lightweight MT-07 and morbidly obese CB650R. And yes, it's A2 compliant. It's all very well talking about it, but I've come down to Hinckley today, to the Triumph factory, to have a little feel of it, to sit on it. We can't start it, we can't run it, we can't ride it, but we can talk to the men who know more about it. I'm just wondering whether I'll get in with this little competitor's number. So we're here with Steve Sargent, Triumph's Chief Product Officer. Got it right now? Yeah.
Got it right.
CPO for short. In terms of the engine, there's lots done to that, isn't there? It's a smaller bore. No, smaller bore, longer stroke.
Yeah, you got it.
Why is that?
So what we were trying to do with this engine when we developed it is, if you look at the other bikes in the segment, you've obviously got a couple of twin cylinders in there and you've got a 4-cylinder in there. What we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that we were matching the twin cylinders low down and in the mid-range, while still having that top end that you'd expect out of a Triumph triple. So one of the things we wanted to do is let's look at what's the best configuration in terms of bore and stroke in terms of delivering that kind of bottom end and mid-range power. So that's why we've made quite a lot of differences, but you know, the differences don't stop there with the engine. So the knock-ons to that, obviously it's got a different crankshaft compared to the street triple, different pistons and rings obviously with a different bore size. We've got different input and output shafts on here, different selector mechanism on here. It's all new airbox, it's got a completely different intake system, different header and exhaust system. So, you know, it's quite a different setup than it is on the street triple.
I was going to say, a lot of people will look at it and go, well, it's just a funked up street triple, isn't it? But really, I mean, if you look at the frame and everything else, it is a completely all new, it's ground up really, isn't it, in terms of the frame. Now, there is more rake, more trail, and I mean, it looks like a much shorter wheelbase because of the
and it is. It is. So it is a shorter wheelbase compared to the street triple. Now, obviously, that gives you lots of agility, but we don't want to sacrifice that kind of stability and that neutral confidence-inspiring feel that you normally get from a Triumph. So we've kicked the rake out a little bit more trail to offset the shorter wheelbase.
So what does that manifest? How does that manifest into the real world?
So basically, how it manifests itself is it feels like a Triumph, as you'd expect a Triumph to feel. So, you know, for people who are coming into this kind of big bike segment for the first time, they've got something that does feel nice and confidence-inspiring. It's very stable, it's very neutral. But then when you want to push on, you've got that kind of agility that you'd expect out of a Triumph, really.
And 81 PS, which is, I think my calculations is 79.8 brake horsepower.
British horsepower.
British horsepower. Now, that's quite a lot less than previous street triples. So that deliberate kind of not lack of power, I won't say that, but the detune, if you like, that's deliberate to make the bike friendlier and a bit more accommodating and to entice other.
So it's all about what the bike's aimed at, really, and it's aimed at being an all-round motorcycle. So it's kind of that real-world bike. you can commute on it, you can ride out with your mates on it, you can have a bit of a scratch at the weekends on it if you want. And so what that focus on is really kind of delivering that power across the whole rev range, rather than having a bike that, you know, to make progress you've got to really rev it hard and push it on. That doesn't really kind of suit the character of the bike and the person that this is aimed at.
Does it really?
So you can turn traction control off.
I was going to say, I mean, this is something that was talked about in the pre-press thing. Now, that was, I think a lot of people get confused. Nowadays, you cannot turn ABS off.
You can't turn ABS off, but you can turn traction control off.
Yeah, which is kind of, it's a crazy kind of stipulation in the rules.
Yeah,
isn't it?
you've got to go with the legislation, and that's what the legislation says. So
there's nothing wrong with that. You know? I'm not complaining, definitely not. It's just a bizarre set of circumstances, isn't it? You've got to have ABS, but it's fine to take.
I guess, you know, ABS is seen, you know, as a safety aid and something that shouldn't be turned off, whereas I think the whole idea with traction control is if you find yourself on wet grass or a loose surface, if you've got traction control on, you're just not going to go anywhere.
No.
So unless you know, you've got to be able to turn it off just in case you're on those kind of loose surfaces. It's not just there for wheeling.
No, okay.
At just over £7,000 there has to be some cost-cutting measures, and the suspension looks to take the brunt of the budget. In terms of hardware, the Trident sits on non-adjustable shell suspension, front and rear, and Nissin sliding calipers bite 310mm discs. Given its target audience, it comes as no surprise that the seat height is a very accommodating 805mm. Having straddled the old girl in Hinckley and the bike, it's very slender in the gusset region. Tech-wise, there's nothing too snazzy, unsurprisingly. You get two modes, road and rain, while switchable traction control and non-adjustable ABS form the safety network. A quick shifter and blipper comes as an optional extra. We said in recent years that the street triple has got a little bit serious. Could the Trident be the answer?
Could it be described as a blatant attempt to get more or newer riders onto or into the Triumph brand?
Yeah, I mean, in simple terms, what we're looking for with the Trident is to get into the more the middleweight roadster category, where we haven't previously had a bike, as a way of broadening the amount of opportunity people can get on a Triumph. This will be the sort of the lowest price, most accessible Triumph that we've done. And yes, absolutely, we're looking to draw more people to the fantastic Triumph brand, give them a chance to ride one.
And I mean, the price, when the price was announced yesterday, I was a bit like, whoa, that's pretty good. I mean, £7,195, just a smidgen over £7,000, to put it simply. That's another £100 for the bigger tank.
For the big tank logo.
Graphic, yeah. But you know, just over £7,000 for this bike, I think you got it pretty much bang on there. So I was interested to hear the competitors though, because you've got the Ninja 650 or ZX, the Z650, CB 650R, and the
MT-07.
MT-07. Yeah. I mean, in terms of performance, I haven't ridden the bike yet, but in terms of performance, I can pretty much guarantee this is going to smash those competitors, having ridden them all previously. But I suppose in this middleweight sector, it's almost it feels like it's in a class of its own almost, because, you know, when you look at the performance, it's going to smash it. But like you said, that price point, it's bang on the money.
Yeah. So
I was just interested to hear as to why you choose those particular bikes.
Well, I think it's that those bikes represent quite a really large segment of the world of motorcycling.
Yeah.
So if you're maybe moving up to your first big bike, or you're someone who's coming to biking a little bit later in life, and again you're moving up from what you've been riding for the first couple of years into something that's going to be more substantive. So that's an existing audience of riders, and the choices that they would have are those three bikes. But in those three bikes, if you talk to customers, as of course we do, or people who buy bikes like that, when we're asking them, okay, well, what is it that you're after, which then defines the brief for what we're going to create, that effectively is giving us the definition of what the Trident should be. So they're mainly twins, where the Hondas are 4. Well, the twins have got a shortcoming at the top end, and a Honda is, not necessarily the Honda, but 4-cylinder bikes take a little bit to get going. The power's at the top end. So a triple gives you the best of all those worlds without necessarily those shortcomings of a twin falling off at the top or a 4-cylinder to get going. So the triple was obviously, that was going to be the choice. But then in that category, if you talk to riders who are looking at those bikes, what they like and what they want, they like technology. So for the price, we think we're offering something that actually resets the benchmark with quite a few things that are new to the category and class leading. Our fit and finish, the standard of Trident's fit and finish is usually something that I think is pretty well understood, is pretty premium.
Yeah.
And then the handling on top of that, you put all that together, and I think we're offering something that is new, but to an audience that would only have those 3 bikes to choose previously.
Well, I think, and again, I haven't ridden it yet, I cannot wait to do so, but I've got a feeling it's going to be like putting Usain Bolt in a dad sports day race, because, you know, on paper, and looking at it and looking around it, I think you're definitely onto a winner there. So
great.
Looking forward to twisting that throttle.